The campus of San Jose State University in this edition of Equal Time. I'm your host, Journalism School Director Bob Rucker. Flashing lights, large crowds, and live music. Music festivals and raves are becoming more and more popular. But what happens when drugs are mixed into the situation? Find out in this edition of Equal Time. Music concerts have been around for decades, providing fans with the ultimate fun experience. But drugs are making a more public appearance than ever before. Equal Time correspondent Katie Oriana begins our coverage.
Concerts are exciting. Live music, bright lights, and good company make for memorable celebrations. But the thrill of it all has led some people to try a new way to enhance their experience at the shows. Drugs, particularly ecstasy and MDMA, otherwise known as Molly, have made a strong appearance in the party scene. Although headline after headline highlight death tolls at music festivals, how many concert goers have considered the negative effects of these drugs? At this music festival in Santa Cruz, we asked concert goers whether drugs to enhance the concert experience are really worth it.
I'm a mother, so I'd rather them not have to do that to enjoy themselves, and music's always a great way to be happy and dance around, and you can get high on that. You don't have to get high on drugs, right?
There's so much to gain from these experiences here, so I don't think that you should let drug use get in the way of having a good time. You don't need that to enjoy yourself.
Others say the decision is ultimately up to the person considering taking Molly and ecstasy.
So I feel like allowing it and just providing support for people who need it, maybe a medic or someone there to talk people down if they're having a bad time, would probably be more useful than laws against it.
I think, it's anything, if you choose to do that responsibly without, negatively impacting anyone else, then that's your freedom to do so. I think it should be allowed.
Santa Cruz Music Festival also holds lectures the day of the event to discuss different issues. A cannabis lecture was held, but it wasn't to educate its fans. It was to promote a new pot-selling business. Santa Cruz Music Festival organizer Sam Working says that drugs aren't an issue at this type of festival.
Of course, people do drugs everywhere. I don't really think music festivals have a huge impact on that. But yeah, there's definitely festival drug culture combined, especially more in the rave scene, I guess you would say. We're more of an all-encompassing music festival. We've been here down 3 years and we haven't had any problems with drug use or anything like that. So.
Music festivals like Coachella and EDC are doing what they can to ensure their customers have a safe, fun, and positive experience. But what happens when these type of concerts end up on a college campus? We'll tackle that issue next.
When we come back, we'll take a look at how drugs are affecting the music scene at San Jose State University. Welcome back. We've seen how party drugs such as Molly and ecstasy have affected the community as a whole. But what happens when these drugs show up at campus events? We continue our report.
These people are holding tickets for one of the hottest shows in town, Jack-O-Lantern, one of about 4 raves held at the San Jose State University Event Center every year. Most of these fans are from a younger demographic. When hosting a concert like this, the school takes precautions. University Police Captain Alan Cavallo says certain concerts require more attention than others.
I can't think of one single concert that was a younger crowd concert that didn't have an issue. Obviously we've had some other concerts that are, us old people would go to, and we haven't really had any incidents, but anything that involved any of the younger kids, we seem to have incidents which occur that are drug related or alcohol related.
University police and emergency medical technicians have vehicles right outside the event center the night of concerts to aid anyone who may need immediate assistance. The police also have an amnesty bin routine, where right before the show starts, officers encourage concertgoers to turn in any contraband that they may have. Those who throw away illegal drugs before the show will not receive any sort of punishment. But not everyone empties their pockets, and that's where the real danger lies. Ecstasy and Molly are both drugs that enhance the experience one has at a show. They release serotonin, and as a result, make the person feel an intense form of euphoria. However, the drugs do have negative effects. Wellness and health coordinator Liz Romero says that there are far worse things that can occur other than just having a bad trip.
Students or people taking it can get really dehydrated to the point where like they need to be medically transported because they need their body to be hydrated again and to get fluids into their system. And so there can be people who pass out, there can be, again, seizures, there can be people who also pass away from the use, so it can go to that extreme.
Ecstasy and Molly release so much serotonin. Once the person comes down, they may fall into depression. Campus administrators are well aware of these sort of situations. SJSU Interim President Susan Martin says her team gets involved with trying to avoid students to get transported.
We did some things on our prior campus, even backing up to taking a look at what concerts should be booked and what should our policy be. So I will have to get up to speed on how these have been booked and what we're doing to make sure that we're taking care of our students on our campus.
Although the fans may be the ones taking the drugs, ultimately it does affect the artists. Hip-hop artist Lafa Taylor says taking a drug is not necessary for the fans to enjoy a show.
I think that a festival goes hand in hand with expansion of the mind, and I don't think that anything is required to experience that besides the music and all the people that you're around, and the amazing art that's around and all the different workshops going on, and that is totally means enough.
Regardless of the warnings against drugs, according to the Miami Herald, 72% of people have admitted to using some form of a drug at a music festival. 80% of those admitted that it was either ecstasy or Molly. These numbers are for raves nationwide.
When we come back, we'll sit down with students, the event center official, and university police to discuss the two sides of this story. Stay with us. Welcome back to this edition of Equal Time. Today we're going to be talking about raves, the music, the fun, the issues, and the problems. Let's meet our guests.
Hi, I'm Erica Nielsen. I'm a communications study major here at SJSU.
Hi, I'm Aiko Allen. I'm a film major at SJSU.
My name is Tony Lee. I'm a police detective with the University Police Department.
And I'm Kathy Buzalaki, the executive director of the Student Union.
Hi, I'm Katie Oriana, and I am the student correspondent for this episode of Equal Time.
Well, thank you for setting up this story because I'm looking forward to learning a lot here. When I was in college, we called them parties. Now you call them raves. And Erica, you said you just went to one recently for the very first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a really great experience. I went with a lot of my close friends, so I felt really comfortable going into that kind of environment, and it was very positive, and I really enjoyed it. I would go to another one.
And right next to you is a lady who's a veteran. She's been to a lot of them. You've been to one in Vegas, you said, and a variety of others?
Yeah.
What were they like?
They're really great. My first one was last year, and just last year, only March. So I've been going to a lot of raves after that. I've been kind of like addicted to them because they're really positive, the fun, the environment, the people especially. It's a really great place.
And for those of us, very quickly, those of us who have never been inside a rave as we know it today, what goes on? Is it live music? Is it a combination of things? What happens?
Yeah, so it's live music. There are DJs that come in depending on whether it's like a festival or just a show. There can be like multiple DJs, and they come in and they play their sets. So they like remix songs, they play some of their own, and the people there just kind of like
there to like experience the music and really enjoy themselves.
So it sounds like a fun environment. And Kathy, you get the wonderful pleasure of scheduling these things at San Jose State?
Yeah, I work with my staff and we plan for the events. You know, and raves we've had them at the event center now for about 4 years. And we get better and better at actually producing them. So yeah, and you know, it's what students are looking for right now.
And you never need Tony. Tony never has a problem. They're always well done, right? Nobody gets out of line.
Well, there are effects of having these electric dance music concerts at our campus. A lot of stereotypes. So there's drugs and alcohol involved at these events. And sometimes people overdose on drugs or they can't handle the drugs in their system, and that does lead to medical aid calls.
Right, and I think that's what people at home who watch the news see these type of stories periodically and wonder, why are they doing that on a college campus? What would you say, Kathy?
I guess what I would say is, you know, I look back when I was in college and went and saw music or a show. You know, you look back, you had the Grateful Dead. There's different times or periods where there was always drugs or alcohol involved. It's how you actually plan for them and what you do to prepare for them. I think about what students are interested in. Do we want to keep our students here on campus, or do they want to go to San Francisco or to the Civic? So would you rather have the students drive to San Francisco, party, and then drive back and be in a car, or do we figure out how do we maintain and handle and work with university police to make it a safe environment or a safer environment for our students?
It seems logical and makes sense to try to be safe and make these things happen. Kathy, when you were researching this story, what made you want to talk about raves?
I think the stereotype in itself, I love concerts. I've never been to an actual rave, but I love just the idea of going to a concert, seeing a show, and just falling in love with the music and being there. But every single time I would go to a concert, I would always hear my mom on the phone telling me be careful if they give you a drug. It's not a candy, it's a drug. And I'm just there's always this stereotype that shows automatically have to have some sort of drug or alcohol to enhance the experience. And so it made me really curious to see what are the facts and what is the experience like, and against each other, is it true, what the media portrays?
Well, let's ask our experts here. Have you had that experience where you've seen drugs or issues with drugs? Either of you?
Yeah, you encounter a lot of people that do drugs, but all you can do is be mentally prepared for it and know how to prevent overdosing, like these people. You gotta hydrate yourself, of course. It's hot in there. There's thousands of people packed in that little room. So you gotta hydrate, you gotta pace yourself, you just gotta be prepared. You can't just go in there and do whatever.
And again, it's not a silly question for those who've never been in a rave. Why would you want to endure music that way? Isn't there a better way to enjoy music?
I think that for some people that the drugs, like Katie said, that it does enhance the music experience. It just makes the music better. But I know some people, they don't need drugs to go to raves. I know people that go sober and they still have the time of their life where they don't feel the need that drugs are necessary.
True, and not everyone does drugs in college. Let's be very clear about that. And most of our students are quite responsible. But Tony, when they're not, what can a student do to protect him or herself in these type of environments?
The easiest way is not to take things from people you don't know. And the people that do choose to experience and experiment with drugs, they need to know what they're taking. A lot of people don't know. It's someone that's there and selling them stuff, and they don't know what they're taking. So if that's your decision, and it is illegal, but if they choose to make that decision and try it and experiment with it, they need to know what they're ingesting into their body, because a lot of times they don't.
And do you ever get any tips from the police department, either on campus, off campus, that there is a drug issue or there may be a drug issue? And if so, do you have to plan for that, or how do you deal with it?
We do prepare for it. That, like everyone has said, there is a stereotype. At these raves, there is drug use. So we work with the event center, and we prepare to get as much medical staff there as possible. We have ambulances on standby here to transport people if it gets to that point where they need to get transported to a hospital.
Has it ever been that bad?
Yes, it has.
And has any fatalities or anything like that?
I haven't experienced or known of any fatalities that happened here.
Okay.
Has there ever been any negative backlash that you have received from maybe alumni or parents that say, why are we still doing that, and why are we hosting these events?
Yeah, honestly, we have. And what we're trying to do is really say, how do we educate students? And so each event we get better and better at trying to prepare for it. Like our most recent event, we had probably over 100, close to 150 different types of personnel on staff, whether it be medical, whether it be what they're called plur angels, which are peers that walk the floor. They look to see if anyone either is inebriated or having a hard time. We'll actually have then emergency medical personnel come to them and help them pull them out. And then it's really about hydration. I think she mentioned that earlier. So actually then pulling them out, having almost what we call a triage area. Well, we spend some time with them, hydrate them, and within an hour or two, they're back out there again. I was there recently at an event, and the energy is amazing. I was really amazed by it.
It can be a lot of fun, but we also hear of stories of plumes of smoke, a lot of it marijuana, wafting through the air. What do we do with that? How do we deal with that?
We handle it when we see it. There are thousands of people in a small, compact area, so it's hard to be everywhere at once, but when we see it happening in front of us, we handle it. We either take them outside, escort them out. If it gets to a point where we need to cite them or arrest them, we will deal with it if it comes to that point.
Can they be arrested simply for having marijuana or using marijuana, or do they have to be belligerent before you'll arrest them?
Simple possession of marijuana nowadays is just an infraction, so it's not arrestable, it's citable.
Okay, very good. Have you ever had your classmates talk to you about sneaking things in, and it'll be a lot more fun if we do this or we bring that? There are some students who said, yeah, they do it and they get away with it and they have no problem. Have you ever heard of that? Students bringing things in to have a better experience?
Yeah, to enhance the experience.
Tell me about that.
People will sneak anything in, but it's mostly not alcohol, it's mostly drugs, ecstasy, Molly or marijuana. And they go there for the love of the music, but then drugs are really a big factor nowadays in raves and festivals. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're scaring moms and dad out there watching that. They're going to say, well, then why should I let them go? Erica, why did you want to go?
I went because I actually went with Aiko, and she has been telling me for like the longest time that I need to go to a rave, that it's like one of the best experiences ever. And I went, and it was like nothing that I had experienced. And like there were drugs present, but for the most part, people had they were under control. Like they were experienced, they were responsible about it, and there wasn't as many people that were just like out of control that like needed medical attention.
Very good. But it does beg the question, Tony, where is the line between people having fun and being safe? What they can do and they can't do? Who judges? How do you judge? How do you decide?
When it gets to a point where they can't care for themselves, someone needs to take care of them. And granted, people do go to these raves and they're completely sober the whole time and they have a great time. But there are a handful of people that want to experiment and have a different feel. And when it gets to a point where they ingest drugs or alcohol and they can't care for themselves to the point where they're completely passed out, we need to step in and take care of them. And that's where EMTs come into play, that's where paramedics come into play, and that's at points they need to get transported to a hospital.
Is there a difference that you guys see with the frequency of marijuana use versus like ecstasy and Molly use, or alcohol even?
From my experience, more at raves, it's Molly and ecstasy is the main drug that people use at raves.
Versus alcohol?
I would think alcohol would be the most prevalent.
Alcohol is sold at the event center at these raves. A lot of people do drink before coming here as well, and it's a combination of both. It's a combination of the drug use and the alcohol use that causes these medical issues.
Is selling alcohol at the event center an issue that maybe should be addressed, and maybe not sell alcohol at the event center? Is that an option that we have?
We can consider that, but a lot of people attending the event are over 21 years old. So what we take in consideration the length of what that, we call them EDM shows and not raves necessarily. Mm-hmm. Then at a particular point in time, like an hour and a half to 2 hours before ending, we shut off alcohol. Mm-hmm. So it allows, whether it be a student, any participant, to kind of, if they'd been drinking, to kind of sober up a little bit before we actually allow them to go out. So we take that in consideration, and we've talked about, okay, do we even cut it off earlier? We're always looking at ways to improve the environment so that whether it be for our students. And honestly, the majority of our EDM shows now, I will say that it's anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70% are our students. We know that by our box office sales.
That's very good.
And I will say that over the years, this is the most student participation we've ever had at a concert in the event center.
One of the most important things is to pace yourself, because ODing is the problem. People go there for the environment and the music, but drugs are going to be present. It's a music festival with a lot of people. It happens. Hydrate, of course. Make sure you know what you're taking. Nowadays, since it's such a big thing to do, there's test takers. So those exist, so you can check what you're doing.
Now you said the person can actually test and see what they're drinking?
Yeah, no, not what they're drinking, but what is the content of their drug or their substance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how do students learn about that? How do they find out about that?
It's
the testing process.
The testing process?
Yeah, that little you were talking about.
Yeah, just Google.
Oh yeah, they get the information, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Erica, you were going to say?
I think as far as like safety measures through the event center, I think it's really well managed. That there's like when I went to the last EDM show, there were ambulances parked out front. There was a lot of security kind of monitoring the area. I think like the precautions need to be taken by the individuals, making sure that they are in control, whether they're sober, drinking alcohol, taking drugs. I think that it's mostly up to that person.
And when the effort is done and the lights go up and it's time for people to go out, what about crowd control after these events? And people tend to look for after parties. They tend to want to continue the fun. What are the concerns afterwards when you're letting them out?
We know that when a lot of people leave, they're going to be inebriated, they're going to be on drugs. So we try to have someone safe with them, friends, sober friends that can take care of them. And there are big crowds once they all leave the event center. There's going to be thousands of people. And we try to push them out to get home safely, whether it's back to the dorms or to their car or to Uber or to a cab. So there is a lot of crowd control management at these EDMs at the end of the raves as well.
So just in terms of numbers, general numbers, how many would you say are in one of these events per evening?
If we do a sold-out show, you're looking at about 6,300 to 6,500.
Wow, so a huge crowd. All of them, they don't stay the whole time period, so you lose some over time?
Yeah, so a particular show can start maybe at 6 o'clock at night and it could go to 11, and they kind of come in. We'll have a long line because we do a thorough check before they enter the door. We do we have a pat down and security check before they come through. We check their bags, the person. Try to check as much as we can to make sure they're not bringing anything in. So yeah, it does take a little bit of time, and so they kind of straggle in and out.
Very good.
More on the drug use, there is during the searches we have amnesty boxes for them to, if they decide to choose, like this is probably not for me, they can drop it in there and it'll be destroyed. So they are given a chance to give up any drugs that they have in their possession before entering these EDMs.
Are there any shows that the Event Center refuses to host, or any artists specifically that may not be welcomed?
We actually take some time in looking at the artists that we actually bring to the Event Center. We try to bring more mainstream EDM shows versus what is considered underground shows, and a lot of those will either be at beaches or a warehouse. We don't go there. And the other thing we do when we bring in EDM shows, we usually use two major promoters that are nationally known, and it's usually AEG or Live Nation. And so those are promoters who know, and we work hand in hand with them, and it's really a partnership that we have with University Police, the event center, and the promoter, and then how do we plan for the event. And as I said, we've gotten better and better over time, and I think, probably our last show was what I consider our most successful show. And we will continue to do that and really monitor. One of the things we're thinking about doing is creating a video that students could actually view that talks about safety, mixing of alcohol, what the do's and don'ts before they even get to the event, talks about consent. So we're going to touch upon a variety of issues, and we may even have students have to view it before they buy a ticket.
Sounds like a great idea.
Oh, sorry. Is that something that would interest you, like students? Like, do you feel
Yeah,
like
I think that'd be a fantastic idea because it's almost inevitable for it to happen, for drugs to be present. So the best thing to do is to prepare, to get knowledge on it beforehand, and it's a fantastic idea. Yeah.
And who are your favorite groups to go see? You're the expert now. Tell me who are your favorite ones to go see.
The DJs,
Mm-hmm.
Tiesto and Calvin Harris, and those are pretty big names.
Very good.
Yeah.
They make the circuit here a lot. You see them a lot.
Not in in San Jose.
San Jose, this last one, we saw Dioro.
Dioro
which
was great. Amazing.
It was a lot of fun. And then
No more promotions. They're telling me, well, I guarantee you, though, you want to know from word of mouth whether or not you want to go to these things.
Yeah.
And then when they do come, Tony, you want them to have a good time, but not to be worried about people coming in that are unsavory or issues like that. You want them to have the experience that Carol is trying to establish for them.
Absolutely. We understand everyone's in college. They want to experience college life. And this is part of college life, is experiencing electric dance music. But the decision to experiment with drugs, we understand is out there as well, and we try to prepare for that. Like I said earlier, is we have medical staff at these EDMs in case it gets to that point.
Very good, and it is Kathy,
Yes,
Carol.
thank you.
I feel like we've left out. We missed this part of our time when we were in school. Enjoy yourselves, have fun. You need to have a good time, but make sure you keep us informed on how to have fun. That would help us. Thank you all for being here today. This was very enlightening. We appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. We hope you'll come back for another edition of Equal Time.